A single misdial on a rainy night connects struggling Kiana to a stranger whose voice becomes her lifeline. But when she learns he's Silas Grant, billionaire CEO, everything changes. Was their bond ever real? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. Rain pounded against the cracked windshield of Kiana Lowe's old Honda as she hit the steering wheel in frustration. The car had finally given up, sputtering to a stop in the corner of a gas station parking lot. The bright fluorescent lights overhead made the raindrops glitter like falling glass. "No, no, no, not now," she cried out, turning the key again and again. Nothing happened, not even a click. Kiana leaned her forehead against the wheel, trying not to cry. At 27, she felt twice her age. The weight on her shoulders seemed to grow heavier with each passing day. She glanced at her phone, 12:47 a.m. Her rent was 3 weeks past due. Tomorrow was the deadline before eviction. Her thoughts turned to her 16-year-old sister Zoe, who was home alone, running a fever again. The clinic had turned them away yesterday when she couldn't make the copay. The medicine they'd been rationing wasn't helping anymore. "What am I going to do?" she whispered, her voice cracking. The rain intensified, drumming against the roof of the car. Kiana watched as the last employee locked up the gas station and drove away, leaving her alone in the dimly lit parking lot. She shivered, more from fear than cold. There was only one person who might help her now. Derek, her ex-boyfriend. They'd broken up 6 months ago when he took a job in Chicago, saying he needed to focus on his career. But he'd always said if she ever really needed him, he'd be there. Well, she really needed someone now. With trembling fingers, Kiana scrolled through her contacts and found his number. She took a deep breath and dialed. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. "Hello?" The voice that answered was deep and calm. A man's voice, but not Derek's. It was richer, softer somehow. "I'm sorry," Kiana said quickly, pulling the phone away to check the number. She'd hit a 7 instead of a 4 in Derek's number. "I have the wrong number. Sorry to bother you." "Wait," the man said before she could hang up. "Are you okay? You sound upset." Kiana was surprised by the concern in the stranger's voice. "I'm fine," she lied, but her voice cracked, betraying her. "You don't sound fine," he said gently. "Where are you? Are you safe?" Something about his voice, the genuine worry in it, broke through Kiana's last defenses. A sob escaped her lips before she could stop it. "My car broke down," she admitted. "I'm at a gas station and it's late and I don't know what to do anymore." There was a pause and Kiana thought he might hang up. Why would a complete stranger care about her problems? "I'm Silas," he said finally. "What's your name?" "Kiana." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Kiana," he repeated, as if testing how it sounded. "That's a beautiful name. Listen, Kiana, I want you to lock your doors, okay? Is there someone you can call to come get you?" She laughed bitterly. "That's what I was trying to do when I dialed the wrong number. No friends or family. My sister is homesick," Kiana explained. "And I don't have many friends left these days. They get tired of hearing about your problems after a while, you know?" "I know exactly what that's like," Silas said, and something in his tone made her believe he truly did understand. "What about a tow truck?" "Can't afford it," she admitted, embarrassment burning in her chest. I'm kind of in a financial situation right now." To her surprise, Silas didn't end the call or offer empty platitudes. Instead, he asked, "Do you want to tell me about it? I'm not doing anything else tonight." Maybe it was the anonymity, of talking to a stranger, or maybe it was just that she'd reached her breaking point. But Kiana found herself telling this man everything. How she'd been raising her sister since their parents died in a car accident 3 years ago. How she'd lost her job at the insurance company during layoffs. How the medical bills from Zoe's chronic bronchitis had piled up. Silas listened. He didn't interrupt or try to fix things, he just listened. And somehow that was exactly what Kiana needed. "I'm sorry," she said finally, realizing she'd been talking for nearly 20 minutes. "You don't need to hear all this," I asked. Silas reminded her gently. Sometimes it helps to say things out loud to someone who doesn't have any expectations. Kiana looked out at the empty parking lot. The rain had stopped, but the night felt darker than ever. "Where do you live, Kiana?" Silas asked. She hesitated. I'm not asking to come over, he clarified quickly. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to help you get home safely. Westbrook Heights, she said. The apartment complex on Dale Street. That's not too far from this gas station on Reed Avenue, right? The one with the broken sign? Kiana was surprised. Yes, that's the one. How did you know? Lucky guess, Silas said. Look, I'm going to call you a ride share. The driver's name will be Marcus. He's a friend of mine. He'll take you home, no charge. You don't have to do that, Kiana protested. I know I don't have to. I want to, Silas replied. As for your car, I know a good mechanic who can look at it tomorrow. I'll text you his information. Kiana was stunned by this stranger's kindness. Why are you helping me? You don't even know. Me. There was a pause before Silas answered. Maybe I need this as much as you do. Before she could ask what he meant, he continued, Marcus will be there in about 10 minutes. Can you stay on the phone with me until he arrives? Yes, she said, softly. Thank you. They talked while she waited. Silas told her about the book he was reading, a mystery novel she'd never heard of. He had a way of describing it that made her want to read it too. His voice was calming, like a warm blanket on a cold night. True to his word, a car pulled into the gas station 10 minutes later. The driver, an older man with kind eyes, introduced himself as Marcus. He helped Kiana gather her things from her car and drove her home. When she finally got to her apartment, Zoe was asleep on the couch, her fever down. Kiana covered her with a blanket and realized she was still on the phone with Silas. I'm home, she told him. Safe and sound thanks to you. I'm glad, he said. There was something in his voice she couldn't quite identify. Relief, maybe, or something deeper. Kiana, would it be okay if I called you tomorrow, just to check on you and your sister? Kiana hesitated. This man was a stranger. She knew nothing about him except his first name and the fact that he'd been extraordinarily kind to her. But something told her she could trust him. Yes, she said finally. I'd like that. When they hung up, Kiana stared at her phone for a long moment. The number that had answered wasn't Derek's, but somehow it had been exactly the right one to call tonight. Silas Grant set his phone down on the sleek glass desk in his home office. Outside his penthouse windows, the city lights twinkled in the distance, but he barely noticed them. For the first time in months, he felt something other than the cold numbness that had become his constant companion. At 30, Silas had achieved more success than most people did in a lifetime. His finance firm, Grant Investments, managed billions in assets. His face had been on the cover of business magazines. He had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes, and he had never felt more alone. A year ago, his world had crumbled. His wife, Vanessa, had filed for divorce after just 2 years of marriage. The tabloids had a field day with it, especially when she claimed he was emotionally unavailable, too focused on his empire to build a real relationship. The divorce was still making its way through the courts, with Vanessa demanding half of everything. Silas didn't even care about the money. What hurt was the realization that she might have been right about him. Then, 3 months ago, his mother had died after a brief illness. The one person who had always believed in him, who had supported him when he was just a kid with big dreams from a small town. The one person who'd loved him unconditionally. Since then, Silas had withdrawn from the world. He still ran his company, but he did it from a distance, attending meetings virtually, sending emails at odd hours. He hadn't been to a social event in months. He barely left his penthouse, except to visit his mother's grave. Tonight, when the unknown number had flashed across his screen, he'd almost ignored it. Another client wanting something, probably, but something had made him answer, and in Kiana's voice, he'd heard a pain that mirrored his own, a loneliness he recognized, a strength. That impressed him, even as she thought she was breaking. Silas walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse. For the first time in a long time, he noticed how beautiful the city lights were. He thought about Kiana, alone with her sick sister, carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders, yet still fighting, still hoping. He made a decision then. He would help her, but anonymously. He didn't want her gratitude or to complicate her life with his baggage. He just wanted to ease her burden somehow. Tomorrow he would call his friend at the clinic to make sure her sister got the care she needed. He would arrange for her car to be fixed. Maybe he could even find her a job opportunity, all without revealing who he really was. As he got ready for bed, Silas realized he was looking forward to tomorrow's phone call. He wanted to hear Kiana's voice again, to know she was okay. For the first time since his mother died, Silas felt a flicker of warmth in his chest, a small flame of connection in the cold emptiness he'd been living in. The wrong number that had called him tonight might have been the most right thing to happen to him in a very long time. The next morning, Kiana woke to find Zoe's fever had broken. Her sister was eating cereal at their small kitchen table, looking better than she had in days. "How are you feeling?" Kiana asked, touching Zoe's forehead. "Better," Zoe said with a small smile. "Who was that guy who brought you home last night? I woke up when you came in." "Just a driver," Kiana explained, not wanting to get into the whole story. "My car broke down." Zoe's face fell. "Oh no, how are we going to afford to fix it?" Before Kiana could answer, her phone rang. An unknown number, the same one from last. "Right, hello?" she answered, heart beating a little faster. "Good morning, Kiana. It's Silas. How are you and your sister doing today?" His voice sounded even warmer in the daylight. Kiana found herself smiling despite all her worries. "She's better this morning," Kiana said, turning away so Zoe wouldn't see her expression. "Thank you again for last night. I don't know what I would have done." "I'm glad I could help," Silas said. "Listen, I talked to my mechanic friend about your car. He's going to tow it to his shop this morning and take a look at it." "Silas, I can't afford—" "It's just a diagnosis," he interrupted gently. "No commitment. And I have some connections at Mercy Clinic. If you take your sister there today, ask for Dr. Patterson. He's expecting you." Kiana was stunned. "Why are you doing all this?" There was a pause before Silas answered. "Let's just say I've been in a dark place lately, and talking to you last night was the first time I've felt anything in a long time. So maybe you're helping me as much as I'm helping you." Something in his voice touched Kiana deeply. This wasn't pity. It was connection. "Can I call you tonight?" Silas asked. "After you've been to the clinic." "I'd like that," Kiana said softly. When she hung up, Zoe was watching her with curious eyes. "Who was that? You're smiling." Kiana touched her cheeks, surprised to find it was true. "Just someone who's helping us out a little. Come on, let's get—" "You ready?" "We're going to the clinic today." As they got ready to leave, Kiana looked at her phone again, at the number that had answered when she misdialed. One digit off from Derek's number, but somehow exactly the right call to make. She saved the number in her contacts, simply Silas. Dr. Patterson turned out to be a kind-faced man in his 50s who examined Zoe with gentle hands and a warm smile. He listened to her breathing, checked her throat, and wrote several prescriptions without once mentioning payment. "This should help with the infection," he explained, handing the prescriptions to Kiana. "And I want to see her again next week just to be sure." Kiana nodded, clutching the papers. "Thank you, doctor. But I should tell you, our insurance situation is complicated right now." Dr. Patterson waved his hand dismissively. "Don't worry about that. We have a program for patients in transition. Just focus on getting your sister better." As they left the clinic, Kiana couldn't believe their luck. When they stopped at the pharmacy, she braced herself for the cost of the medications, but the pharmacist simply handed them over with a smile. "It's been taken care of," he said. Zoe looked at Kiana with wide eyes. "What's going on? How is all this happening?" Kiana thought about Silas, the stranger whose voice had become her lifeline. "I think we might have a guardian angel," she said softly. Back at their apartment, Kiana's phone rang. The screen showed a number she now recognized instantly. "Hey," she answered, unable to keep the smile from her voice. "Hey yourself," Silas replied. "How did it go at the clinic?" "Amazing. Dr. Patterson was so kind, and he didn't even mention payment. And the prescriptions were already paid for when we got to the pharmacy." She paused. "That was you, wasn't it?" "I have connections," Silas said vaguely. "I'm just glad Zoe's getting the treatment she needs." "I don't know how to thank you," Kiana said, her voice thick with emotion. "You already have," Silas told her, "just by talking to me, by letting me help." Kiana sat on the small balcony of her apartment, watching the sunset. I still don't understand why you're doing all this. You don't even know me. I feel like I do, Silas admitted. Sometimes you can know someone better through their voice than by seeing them every day. Something in the way he said it made Kiana's heart beat faster. Tell me about yourself, she said suddenly. All you've done is listen to my problems. I want to know about you. There was a pause, and Kiana thought she might have crossed a line, but then Silas began to speak. I grew up in a small town, he said. My dad left when I was young. My mum worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. She always believed in me, though, pushed me to get an education, to dream big. She sounds wonderful, Kiana said softly. She was, Silas agreed, his voice heavy with grief. She passed away 3 months ago. Oh, Silas, I'm so sorry. Kiana felt a pang in her chest for this man she'd never met, but was beginning to care for deeply. Thank you, he said. It's been hard. She was the only person who really knew me, who loved me for who I was, not what I could do for them. Kiana thought about her own parents, how much she missed them every day. I understand after my parents died, it felt like the world had lost all its color for a while. Yes, Silas said, sounding surprised. That's exactly how it feels, like everything is gray now. They were quiet for a moment, connected by shared grief across the phone line. What do you do for work? Kiana finally asked. I'm in finance, Silas said, his voice shifting slightly. Nothing exciting. It must pay well if you can afford to help strangers with their medical bills, Kiana teased gently. Silas chuckled. I've been fortunate, but money, it's not everything. Trust me on that. There was something in his tone, a loneliness that mirrored her own, that made Kiana want to know more, but she sensed he wasn't ready to share everything yet. What about you? Silas asked. Before you lost your job at the insurance company, what were you doing? What do you want to do? No one had asked Kiana that question in years. She'd been so focused on survival, on taking care of Zoe, that her own dreams had been pushed aside. I was taking night classes for business administration, she admitted. I wanted to work in corporate management someday. Be the one making decisions instead of just carrying them out. You'd be good at that, Silas said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. You're smart, resourceful, and you care about people. That's a rare combination in business. Thank you, Kiana said, touched by his faith in her. But for now, I just need to find another job. Any job. Actually, Silas said, I might be able to help with that too. A friend of mine is looking for someone at his office. Administrative work to start, but with room to grow. Would you be interested? Are you serious? Kiana straightened up in her chair. Yes, absolutely. Great. I'll text you the details tomorrow. It's at Pinnacle Tower downtown. Kiana's eyes widened. Pinnacle Tower housed some of the city's most prestigious companies. Silas, those are all high-end firms. They're not going to hire someone like me. Someone like you. You mean someone intelligent, hard-working, and dedicated? I think they'd be lucky to have you, Silas said firmly. Just promise me you'll try. His confidence in her was like a warm blanket. Okay, I promise. They talked for hours that night, about books they'd read, movies they'd seen, places they wanted to visit someday. Kiana found herself laughing for the first time in months. When they finally said goodnight, she realized she'd completely forgotten about her car troubles, her rent, all the worries that had been crushing her just the day before. Over the next 2 weeks, Kiana and Silas talked every night, sometimes for hours, sometimes just for a few minutes before bed. Zoe teased her about her mystery man, but Kiana didn't mind. Talking to Silas had become the highlight of her day. Then came the day when everything changed. Kiana's car had been fixed. Another of Silas's connections had taken care of it for a fraction of what it should have cost. Her landlord had mysteriously decided to give her an extension on her rent. And now she was standing in front of Pinnacle Tower, wearing her best outfit, clutching her resume. The interview was for a receptionist position at Thompson & Grant Financial Services, one of the top firms in the city. Kiana still couldn't believe she had an appointment. She took a deep breath and pushed through the revolving doors. The lobby was all sleek marble and glass, intimidating in its elegance. She gave her name to the security guard, who directed her to the 30th floor. As the elevator rose, Kiana's stomach tightened with nerves. She thought of Silas, who'd texted her that morning. "You've got this. They'll love you as much as I." The message had cut off there, and he hadn't finished the thought, but it had given her courage. The elevator doors opened onto a reception area with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city. A young woman at the front desk greeted her. "Kiana Lowe, Mr. Thompson is running a few minutes late. Please have a seat. Would you like some water?" "Yes, thank you," Kiana said, trying to hide how overwhelmed she felt. She'd never been in an office this nice before. As she waited, she could see people moving behind the glass walls of the conference rooms. Men and women in expensive suits, looking important and busy. Could she really belong in a place like this? She was so lost in thought that she almost missed it when a deep voice came from one of the nearby offices talking on speakerphone. "Tell him I'll have the reports by end of day and reschedule the Chen meeting for next week." Kiana froze. That voice. She knew that voice. Before she could process what was happening, a tall man in a perfectly tailored grey suit walked out of the office. He was handsome, with dark hair and serious eyes that seemed to hold a permanent sadness. "Mr. Grant," the receptionist called out, "the Thompson portfolio is ready for your review." The man nodded and turned, his eyes meeting Kiana's for the first time. There was a moment of confusion on his face, then shock, then something like panic. He clearly had no idea who she was, but Kiana knew exactly who he was. Silas. The voice that had become her comfort, her friend, maybe something more. The man who had been helping her all this time. "Kiana," he said, his voice so familiar it made her heart ache. "Kiana Lowe." She stood slowly, her mind racing. "You're Silas Grant, of Thompson and Grant." The receptionist looked between them, confused. "Do you two know each other?" "No," Kiana said, her voice cold. "Apparently we don't." Silas took a step toward her, his face pale. "Kiana, I can explain." But the betrayal was too fresh, too sharp. All this time he'd been listening to her struggles, her fears about money, about providing for Zoe, and he'd never once mentioned that he was Silas Grant, the finance mogul whose face had been on business magazines. "Mr. Grant," another assistant called from down the hall, "your 10 o'clock is waiting in the conference room." Silas ignored them, his eyes fixed on Kiana. "Please, let me explain." But Kiana was already backing toward the elevator. "I have to go." "Kiana, wait. Was this some kind of game to you?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "Poor little Kiana, so desperate, so grateful for your charity. Did you laugh about me with your rich friends?" "No," Silas said, his face stricken. "It wasn't like that at all." The elevator doors opened and Kiana stepped inside. "I trusted you," she said, her voice breaking. "I told you everything." As the doors began to close, Silas moved forward, stopping them with his hand. "Kiana, please, 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." She looked into his eyes, those eyes she'd never seen before today, but somehow felt she knew. The connection she'd felt on the phone was still there, pulling at her. But now it was tangled with hurt, with betrayal. "I can't," she whispered, pushing the lobby button. "Please let me go." Silas dropped his hand and the doors closed between them. Kiana leaned against the elevator wall, her heart pounding. How could she have been so foolish? How could she have opened her heart to someone she'd never even met? Back in the lobby, she rushed outside, needing air. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a text from Silas's number. "I never meant to hurt you. Everything I said was real. Everything I felt was real." Tears blurred her vision as she walked away from Pinnacle Tower. Another text came through. "I didn't tell you who I was because for the first time in years, someone was talking to me, not my money, not my position, just me." Kiana stopped on the sidewalk, people streaming past her. Her phone buzzed again. One final message from the number she knew by heart. "Don't walk away before I can say it out loud. I fell in love with your voice before I ever knew your name." The words hit her like a physical force. Love. Is that what this was? This connection, this understanding that had grown between them over countless late-night conversations? But how could she trust him now? How could she believe anything he said. As she stood there, torn between walking away and turning back, a town car pulled up to the curb beside her. The window rolled down, revealing the driver from her first night, Marcus. "Miss Lowe," he said kindly, "Mr. Grant asked me to take you home if you'd like, or anywhere else you want to go." Kiana hesitated. "Did he tell you to convince me to talk to him?" Marcus shook his head. "He just said to make sure you got home safely, and to give you this." He handed her an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "I understand if you never want to speak to me again. But please take the job, you deserve it, and I'll make sure you never have to see me. I'll have my assistant handle everything. Silas." Kiana stared at the note, at the elegant handwriting that seemed both familiar and foreign. Just like the man himself. "What should I tell him?" Marcus asked gently. Kiana looked back at Pinnacle Tower, where somewhere on the 30th floor, Silas was waiting for her answer. "Tell him," she began, then paused. What did she want? The job would solve so many of her problems. But could she work in the same building as him, knowing what might have been? "Tell him I need time," she said finally. "Tell him I need to think." Marcus nodded. "And the ride home?" Kiana looked at the car, then back at the tower. "Not home," she said, surprising herself. "Take me to the coffee shop across the street. I have some thinking to do." As Marcus pulled away from the curb, Kiana's phone buzzed once more. "Take all the time you need. I'll be waiting, always." She held the phone to her chest, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She'd come to the interview hoping for a job. Instead, she'd found the man whose voice had saved her on her darkest night, the man who had become her confidant, her friend, and possibly something more. Now she had to decide if she could forgive him for not telling her the truth. If the connection they'd built over the phone could survive in the harsh light of reality. And as she sat in the coffee shop, watching Pinnacle Tower stretch toward the sky, Kiana wondered if she had the courage to find out. Silas stood at his office window, watching the tiny figure of Kiana enter the coffee shop across the street. His heart felt like it was being torn in two. He'd never meant for it to happen this way. When they'd first spoken that night, he'd had no idea she would become so important to him. No idea that her voice would be the thing that finally broke. Through the numbness he'd been living in, he should have told her who he was. He knew that now. But he'd been afraid. Afraid that if she knew he was Silas Grant, CEO of one of the city's largest financial firms, everything would change. She would see him differently, treat him differently, just like everyone else did. For the past 2 weeks, talking to Kiana had been the only bright spot in his life. She'd made him laugh, made him think, made him feel alive again. And now he might have lost her forever. "Mr. Grant?" His assistant's voice came through the intercom. "The board members are still waiting." "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes," Silas replied. He turned back to the window, watching the coffee shop across the street. All his wealth, all his power, and he couldn't guarantee the one thing he wanted most, that Kiana would give him a chance to explain. His phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "She's at Westside Coffee. Says she needs time to think." Silas typed back quickly. "Thank you, keep an eye on her but give her space." Then he straightened his tie, put his professional mask back in place, and headed to the conference room. He had a company to run, decisions to make, people counting on him. But his mind remained with the woman across the street, and the future that hung in the balance between them. 3 days passed. Kiana hadn't returned Silas's calls or texts. She needed time to sort through her feelings, to decide if she could trust him again. Zoe watched her sister with worried eyes as Kiana paced their small apartment. "You should at least hear him out," Zoe said, curled up on the couch. Her cough was almost gone thanks to the medication Dr. Patterson had prescribed. "He helped us when nobody else would." "That's exactly the problem," Kiana replied, running her hands through her hair. "Why did he help us? What does someone like Silas Grant want with someone like me?" "Maybe he just likes you," Zoe suggested. "Is that so hard to believe?" Kiana stopped pacing and looked at her sister. At 16, Zoe still believed in simple truths, that people could just like each other, that connections could be genuine. "It's complicated," Kiana said. You miss talking to him, Zoe pointed out. You check your phone every 5 minutes. Kiana couldn't deny it. Their nightly calls had become a lifeline for her, a connection to someone who seemed to understand her in a way no one else had. And what about the job? Zoe continued. We need the money, Kai, you know we do. That was another problem. The rent extension would end soon. The bills kept coming. And Thompson & Grant Financial Services was offering her a position that paid twice what she'd made at the insurance company. Her phone rang and Kiana's heart jumped. But it wasn't Silas. It was a woman named Elaine Matthews, the HR director at Thompson & Grant. Ms. Lowe, I'm calling to follow up about the receptionist position. Are you still interested? Kiana hesitated. Yes, but Mr. Grant mentioned there was some confusion during your interview, Elaine said smoothly. He wanted me to assure you that if you take the position, you would report directly to me. You wouldn't need to interact with him at all, if that's your preference, Kiana thought. About it, the job would solve so many of their problems, but could she really work in the same building as Silas, pretending she didn't know him, pretending she hadn't shared her deepest thoughts with him over countless hours on the phone? Can I let you know tomorrow? Kiana asked. Of course. The position is yours if you want it. After hanging up, Kiana grabbed her jacket. I need some air, she told Zoe. I'll be back soon. She walked to the small park near their apartment, sitting on a bench by the pond. The late afternoon sun glittered on the water, reminding her of that rainy night at the gas station. How desperate she had been, how close to giving up. And then that wrong number, that voice that had changed everything. A shadow fell across her, and Kiana looked up to see Marcus, Silas's driver. Miss Lowe, he said, tipping his hat. Lovely evening. Are you following me? Kiana asked, irritated. Marcus looked embarrassed. Mr. Grant asked me to keep an eye on you, for your safety, nothing more. I don't need a bodyguard, Kiana said, but something in the older man's eyes made her soften. How long have you worked for him? 10 years, Marcus replied, sitting beside her when she gestured to the bench. Since before all this success, when he was just a kid with big dreams and a shabby apartment. Kiana was surprised. I thought he was born rich, Marcus chuckled. Far from it. His mother cleaned houses to put food on the table. Silas worked 3 jobs to put himself through college. Everything he has he built from nothing. This didn't fit with the image Kiana had constructed in her mind. Why didn't he tell me who he was? Marcus was quiet for a moment. How you need to understand something about Mr. Grant. People treat him differently because of who he is now, what he has. His ex-wife? Marcus stopped abruptly. His ex-wife? Kiana prompted. Marcus sighed. It's not my place, but I will say this. When people look at Silas Grant, they see dollar signs. But when he talked to you, he told me you just saw him. Kiana's heart tightened. She thought about those late-night conversations, how open and vulnerable Silas had been, how real it had felt. He never lied about who he was, Marcus continued gently. Just what he did. And I think that's because, for the first time since his mother died, he found someone who cared about the man, not the money. Kiana watched the sun setting over the pond. I don't know what to do, she admitted. Talk to him, Marcus suggested. One conversation, then decide. I need more time, Kiana said. Marcus nodded and stood. He'll wait, but don't take too long. Some wounds get deeper with time. As Marcus walked away, Kiana's phone buzzed with a text. I miss your voice. She stared at the message for a long time. The next morning, Kiana made her decision. She called Elaine Matthews and accepted the job at Thompson & Grant. Whatever was happening between her and Silas, she couldn't let her pride get in the yaw. A way of providing for Zoe. Excellent, Elaine said. Can you start Monday? Yes, Kiana replied, trying to sound confident. And about Mr. Grant? He's out of town this week, Elaine told her. Business trip to Tokyo. You won't need to worry about running into him right away. Kiana felt both relieved and strangely disappointed. She'd been preparing herself to face him, to have that conversation Marcus had suggested. The weekend passed. In a blur of preparations, Kiana bought a few new outfits for work, using some of the advance Elaine had arranged for her. Zoe helped her pick out styles that looked professional, but still felt like her. You look beautiful, Zoe said on Sunday night as Kiana tried on her outfit for her first day. Silas Grant won't know what hit him when he gets back from Tokyo. This isn't about him, Kiana insisted, though her cheeks flushed. Sure it's not, Zoe teased. That's why you've been checking your phone every 10 minutes. It was true. Despite her anger and confusion, Kiana found herself missing their conversations. She'd grown used to hearing his voice each night, to sharing her thoughts and fears with him. Several times she'd almost called him, but pride held her back. Monday morning arrived with a mix of nerves and excitement. Kiana arrived at Pinnacle Tower 30 minutes early, her hands shaking slightly as she rode the elevator to the 30th floor. Elaine Matthews met her in the reception area, a stylish woman in her 40s with a warm smile. "Let me show you around," she said, leading Kiana through the office. As they walked, several employees greeted them, everyone seeming friendly and welcoming. Kiana began to relax. Maybe this would work out after all. "And this will be your desk," Elaine said, showing her to the reception area. "You'll manage the front desk, greet clients, direct calls. Simple to start, but as you learn more about the business, there will be opportunities to grow." Kiana sat at what would be her new workspace, a sleek desk with a state-of-the-art computer and a view of the city that took her breath away. "Thank you for this opportunity," she said sincerely. "Don't thank me," Elaine replied with a knowing smile. "This was all Silas's idea. He said you had potential, and he's rarely wrong about people." The first week flew by. The work wasn't difficult, and Kiana found herself enjoying the fast-paced environment. Each day she learned a little more about the business, asking questions during her lunch breaks, studying the company materials in her free time. By Friday, she felt like she belonged there. The other employees had accepted her as part of the team. Several had even invited her to join them for drinks after work. "I'd love to, but I need to get home to my sister," she explained. It wasn't entirely true. Zoe was spending the night at a friend's house, but Kiana wasn't ready for socializing. Yet, as she gathered her things to leave, her desk phone rang. "Thompson and Grant Financial Services. How may I direct your call?" she answered automatically. There was a pause, then that familiar voice. "Kiana." Her heart stopped. "Silas. I'm sorry to call you at work," he said, "but you haven't been answering your phone and I needed to hear your voice." Kiana looked around. The office was nearly empty, most people having left for the weekend. "I thought you were in Tokyo." "I got back yesterday," Silas said. "I've been giving you space, like you asked. But I can't stop thinking about you." The raw honesty in his voice made Kiana's chest tighten. "Silas, Please," he interrupted. "Just let me see you. One conversation, face to face. Then if you never want to speak to me again, I'll respect that." Kiana hesitated, then remembered Marcus's words. One conversation. Then decide. "Okay," she said softly. "Where?" "There's a small Italian restaurant on Pine Street. Bella Notte. Do you know it?" "Yes," Kiana said. It was a cozy, family-owned place, nothing fancy or intimidating. 8 o'clock, Silas asked, hope evident in his voice. 8 o'clock, Kiana confirmed, then hung up before she could change her mind. As she rode the elevator down to the lobby, her phone buzzed with a text. "Thank you." Bella Notte was warm and inviting, with checkered tablecloths and candles in empty wine bottles. Kiana arrived a few minutes before 8, her stomach in knots. The hostess led her to a table in the back, where Silas was already waiting. He stood when he saw her, his eyes never leaving her face. In person, he was even more handsome than she'd first thought, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair, and those intense eyes that seemed to look right into her soul. "You came," he said, as if he'd half expected her to change her mind. "I said I would," Kiana replied, sitting across from him. There was an awkward moment as they both adjusted to being face-to-face after so many hours of talking without seeing each other. "You look beautiful," Silas said finally. Kiana felt herself blush. "Thank you." A waiter came to take their drink orders, giving them a moment to collect themselves. "How's the job so far?" Silas asked when they were alone again. "Good," Kiana said. "Everyone's been very kind." "And Zoe? How is she feeling?" Much better, Kiana said, surprised by how much she wanted to tell him all the little details about her week, as she would have during their phone calls. The medicine worked wonders. Silas smiled, and for a moment, it was almost like those phone conversations, easy, comfortable. Then the reality of their situation crashed back. Kiana straightened in her chair. "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" Silas's smile faded. He looked down at his hands. "I wanted to, many times, but I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "That everything would change," he admitted. "That you would see me differently. That what we had would be tainted somehow." Kiana frowned. "Why would knowing you're successful change anything?" Silas laughed bitterly. "You'd be surprised. Money changes how people see you, how they treat you." "I'm not people," Kiana said, offended. "No, you're not," Silas agreed, his eyes meeting hers again. "You're extraordinary. And that's why I couldn't bear the thought of losing what we had." The waiter returned with their drinks and took their dinner orders. When he left, Kiana leaned forward. "Tell me the truth now," she said. "All of it." Silas took a deep breath. "My name is Silas Grant. I'm 30 years old. I built Thompson and Grant from nothing after putting myself through business school. My mother died 3 months ago from cancer. I was married for 2 years to a woman named Vanessa, who filed for divorce when she realized I would never love her the way she wanted." "And why's that?" Kiana asked. Silas looked at her directly. "Because I married her for all the wrong reasons. Because I thought having the perfect wife to go with my perfect life would make me happy. It didn't." Kiana processed this. "So when I called you that night, I was in the darkest place I'd ever been," Silas finished for her. "Alone in that penthouse, wondering what any of it was worth without someone to share it with. Without someone who saw me, not just what I could give them. And I was just a charity case," Kiana said, the hurt rising again. Poor Kiana with her sob story. "No," Silas said firmly, reaching across the table to take her hand. To her surprise, Kiana let him. "You were a voice in the darkness. Someone who needed help, yes, but who also gave me something I desperately needed." "What's that?" Kiana asked. "Connection," Silas said simply. "Real human connection. Do you know how rare that is? To talk to someone who has no agenda, no angle. Who just wants to talk, to share, to listen." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. Kiana felt her defenses begin to crumble. "I understand why you're angry," Silas continued. "I should have told you who I was sooner. But please believe me when I say that everything else was real. Every conversation, every laugh, every moment of connection, that was all real. Their food arrived, but neither of them touched it. They were too caught up in the moment, in the truth finally being spoken between them." "I'm not angry anymore," Kiana admitted. "I was hurt. I felt foolish. Like maybe I was just some game to you." "Never," Silas said, squeezing her hand. "Kiana, you're the most real thing in my life right now. The only thing that makes sense." She studied his face, seeing the vulnerability there, the hope and fear mingled together. This was the real Silas, not the powerful CEO, but the man she'd come to know through his voice alone. "I missed talking to you," she confessed. "It felt like losing a friend." "I missed you too," Silas said. "More than I thought possible." They ate their dinner slowly, the conversation gradually shifting to lighter topics. Kiana told him about her first week at the company, about the new skills she was learning. Silas shared stories about his recent trip to Tokyo, making her laugh with his description of getting lost in the subway system. By the time they finished dessert, the awkwardness had melted away. It felt natural to be together like this, face to face at last. Outside the restaurant, Silas's town car was waiting. Marcus nodded to Kiana with a small smile. "Can I drive you home?" Silas asked. Kiana hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I'd like that." In the back of the car, they sat close but not touching, both aware of the shift happening between them. They weren't just voices on a phone anymore. This was real, tangible, complicated. "I'd like us to start over," Silas said as they neared her apartment building. "If you're willing, no secrets this time." Kiana looked at him. In the dim light of the car, his face was half in shadow, but his eyes were clear and honest. I'd like that too, she said softly. The car pulled up to her building. Before she could reach for the door handle, Silas touched her arm. There's one more thing I need to say, he told her, his voice low and intense. Something I almost texted. You that day at the office but couldn't bring myself to finish. Kiana's heart raced. What is it? Silas took a deep breath. I think I'm falling in love with you, Kiana Lowe. And it terrifies me because I've never felt this way before, not with anyone. The words hung between them, honest and raw and real. Kiana felt a tremor run through her body, a mix of fear and hope and something else, something she'd been trying to deny. You don't have to say anything, Silas continued, when she remained silent. I just needed you to know the truth. All of it. Kiana reached out and touched his face, her fingers gentle against his skin. I'm scared too, she admitted, of feeling this way about someone I barely know, except I do know you, don't I? In all the ways that matter. Silas turned his face into her touch, his eyes closing briefly. Yes, he whispered. You do. When their eyes met again, there was no need for more words. Kiana leaned forward, and Silas met her halfway. Their kiss was soft, tentative at first, then deepening as they both gave in to what they'd been feeling for weeks. When they finally pulled apart, Kiana was breathless. I should go, she said. Zoe will be wondering where I am. Silas nodded, though he looked reluctant to let her leave. Can I call you tomorrow like before? Kiana smiled. I'd like that. As she climbed the stairs to her apartment, Kiana's phone buzzed with a text. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Sweet dreams. S. She typed back quickly. Thank you. For answering when I dialed the wrong number. K. Inside her apartment, Zoe was waiting on the couch, pretending to watch TV, but obviously having stayed up to see how the date went. Well? She demanded as Kiana came through the door. How was it? Kiana couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. It was a beginning. The following Monday, Kiana walked into Thompson & Grant with a new confidence. The weekend had been magical. Long phone conversations with Silas that stretched into the night just like before, but now with the added knowledge of who he really was. They'd even met for coffee on Sunday, a casual date that had felt simultaneously new and familiar. As she settled at her desk, Elaine stopped by with a knowing smile. Good morning, Kiana. I have a message for you. Mr. Grant would like to see you in his office at 10. Kiana's stomach fluttered. Thank you, she said, trying to sound professional. At precisely 10 o'clock, she knocked on Silas's office door. His voice called for her to enter. The office was impressive. Corner views of the city, elegant furniture, awards lining the walls. But Kiana barely noticed any of it. Her eyes went straight to Silas, who stood as she entered. Good morning, Ms. Lowe, he said formally, a twinkle in his eye. Good morning, Mr. Grant, she replied, playing along. Please close the door. As soon as the door clicked shut, Silas's professional demeanor melted away. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms, kissing her with an intensity that left her dizzy. I've been wanting to do that since I saw you walk in this morning, he murmured against her hair. Kiana laughed, pushing him back playfully. This is highly inappropriate workplace behavior, Mr. Grant. I know, he agreed, not looking remotely. Sorry, but I can't help it. I've spent 2 weeks falling in love with your voice. Now I get to fall in love with all of you. The word sent a thrill through Kiana, but a shadow of doubt still lingered. Silas, this is all happening so fast. We come from different worlds. There's so much we don't know about each other. We have time, Silas assured her, taking her hands in his. All the time in the world. I'm not going anywhere, Kiana. And if you'll let me, I'd like to show you that what we have is real, that it can work. Looking into his eyes, Kiana believed him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, the gossip, the differences in their backgrounds, the complications of working together, they would face them together. I'd like that, she said softly. Silas smiled, that rare, genuine smile she'd grown to treasure. Good, because I think that wrong number might have been the most right thing that ever happened to me. Kiana couldn't help but agree. A simple mistake, 1 digit off, had changed everything, had given her hope when she needed it most, had brought her to this moment, to this man, to a future she never could have imagined that rainy night at the gas station. Sometimes, she thought as Silas pulled her close again, the wrong number turns out to be exactly the right one. 6 months passed and spring bloomed across the city. Kiana's life had transformed in ways she never could have imagined that desperate night at the gas station. She had been promoted twice at Thompson & Grant, moving from receptionist to administrative assistant and then to junior account manager. Her natural talent for the work, combined with her dedication and quick learning, had impressed everyone, especially Elaine Matthews, who'd become both mentor and friend. "You have a gift for this business," Elaine told her one afternoon as they reviewed client portfolios. "You understand not just the numbers, but the people behind them." Kiana smiled, grateful for the encouragement. "I've had a good teacher." "Several good teachers," Elaine corrected with a knowing look toward Silas's office. The relationship between Kiana and Silas had been the subject of office gossip at first. Some employees assumed she'd been promoted because of her connection to the boss. But Kiana had quickly proven herself, working harder than anyone else, staying late to learn everything she could about the business. And Silas had been careful to keep their professional and personal lives separate. At work, he treated her with the same respect he showed all employees. No special favors, no public displays of affection. Their relationship was an open secret, but never flaunted. After hours was a different story. They'd fallen into a comfortable routine. Dinners at each other's places, quiet weekends together, long conversations that reminded Kiana of those first phone calls that had brought them together. Zoe had thrived too. With Kiana's new salary and stable job, they'd moved to a better apartment. Zoe's health had improved dramatically. She'd even been accepted to a prestigious arts program for the summer, her talent for photography finally getting the recognition it deserved. "Are you nervous about tonight?" Zoe asked as she helped Kiana choose an outfit. Silas was hosting a charity gala at his penthouse, the first time Kiana would be officially introduced to his social circle as his girlfriend. "Terrified," Kiana admitted, holding up a simple black dress. "These are all important people. Business leaders, clients, society types." "So what?" Zoe shrugged. "You're just as good as any of them. Better, even." Kiana smiled at her sister's fierce loyalty. "It's not that simple, Zoe. There will be people there who knew Vanessa, who expect Silas to be with someone like her." Vanessa Grant, or Vanessa Rothwell, as she'd gone back to calling herself after the divorce, was from one of the city's oldest families. Beautiful, sophisticated, and according to the gossip Kiana had heard, cold as ice. She'd recently returned from a year in Europe and was rumored to be trying to reconcile with Silas. "Silas loves you," Zoe said firmly. "Nothing else matters." Kiana hoped her sister was right, but as Marcus picked them up in the town car that evening, she couldn't help feeling out of place, like Cinderella going to the ball, knowing midnight would eventually strike. Silas's penthouse took up the entire top floor of one of the city's most exclusive buildings. The elevator opened directly into a foyer with marble floors and a crystal chandelier. Beyond it, floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city skyline. "Wow," Zoe whispered, her eyes wide as they stepped inside. "This is insane." Kiana had been to Silas's home before, of course, but tonight it was transformed. Elegant flower arrangements filled every corner. Waitstaff in crisp uniforms circulated with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. A string quartet played softly in one corner, and in the center of it all was Silas, looking devastatingly handsome in a black tuxedo. He was speaking with an older couple, but his eyes found Kiana the moment she entered. Excusing himself, he crossed the room to greet them. "You're here," he said, taking her hands and kissing her cheek. "You look beautiful," Kiana smiled nervously. "So do you. I mean handsome. You look handsome." Silas grinned at her nervousness, then turned to Zoe. "And you must be the famous Zoe. I've heard so much about you." "Likewise," Zoe replied with a cheeky smile. "Though I think I've heard more about you than you've heard about me." Silas laughed, immediately at ease with the teenager, in a way that made Kiana's heart swell. "Fair enough. Let me introduce you both around." What followed was a whirlwind of introductions. Business partners, clients, charity board members, most were polite if slightly curious about this newcomer on Silas Grant's arm. A few were genuinely warm, especially those who knew Kiana from the office. Elaine Matthews arrived with her husband, immediately pulling Kiana into a hug. "You look stunning," she said warmly. "And don't worry about these vultures. Half of them are just jealous they didn't think to dial Silas's number by mistake." Kiana laughed, relaxing a little, but her comfort was short-lived. A hush fell over one part of the room, and heads turned toward the elevator. Vanessa Rothwell had arrived. She was everything Kiana had imagined. Tall, elegant, with the kind of beauty that came from good genes and better plastic surgeons. Her blonde hair was swept into a perfect updo, her designer gown clinging to her slim figure. "I didn't know she was invited," Kiana whispered to Elaine. "She wasn't," Elaine replied grimly, "but her father is on the hospital board. Silas couldn't exclude her without causing a scene." Across the room, Silas had gone rigid, his jaw tight as Vanessa made her way toward him. "Darling," she said, air-kissing both his cheeks. "What a lovely gathering. Just like old times." "Vanessa," Silas acknowledged coolly, "I didn't expect to see you tonight. Oh, Daddy couldn't make it. Poor health, you know, so I thought I'd represent the family." Her eyes swept the room, landing on Kiana with calculated precision. "And this must be your assistant? How nice of you to invite the staff." Before Silas could respond, Kiana stepped forward, extending her hand with a calm she didn't feel. "Kiana Lowe, it's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Rothwell." Vanessa took her hand briefly, her smile never reaching her eyes. "Charmed, I'm sure. Silas has always had such a generous heart, always trying to help the less fortunate." The implication was clear, and Kiana felt her cheeks burn. But before she could respond, Silas placed his hand at the small of her back. "Kiana is not my assistant, Vanessa. She's my girlfriend," he said firmly, "and I'd appreciate it if you'd treat her with the respect she deserves." Vanessa's perfect smile faltered slightly. "Of course, no offense meant." She turned to Kiana. "I'm just surprised Silas would introduce someone so new to his social circle so quickly, but then he always did rush into things. Isn't that right, darling?" With that parting shot, she glided away to join a group of society matrons who immediately began whispering behind their champagne glasses. "I'm sorry about that," Silas said quietly to Kiana. "I should have warned you she might show up." "It's fine," Kiana assured him, though her heart was racing. "She's just trying to get under your skin." "Under our skin," Silas corrected, squeezing her hand. "But it won't work, not anymore." The evening continued and Kiana did her best to enjoy herself. Zoe hit it off with several of the younger guests, particularly the teenage son of one of Silas's business partners, who shared her interest in photography. But Kiana couldn't help noticing how Vanessa worked the room, stopping to chat with key people, always managing to position herself in Silas's line of sight. It was a calculated performance by someone who knew exactly what she was doing. "Don't let her get to you," Elaine advised, appearing at Kiana's side with a fresh glass of champagne. "She does this at every event Silas attends. She may have left him, but she can't stand the thought of him being happy without her." "Why did she leave him?" Kiana asked, unable to help herself. Elaine glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "The official story is that they wanted different things. The truth is more complicated. Vanessa expected to be the center of Silas's world. When his mother got sick and he devoted time to caring for her, Vanessa felt neglected. She filed for divorce, thinking he'd beg her to stay. He didn't." Kiana watched Vanessa across the room, laughing with a group of men who hung on her every word. "And now she wants him back?" "Now she wants what she can't have," Elaine corrected. "But trust me, Silas has never looked at her the way he looks at you." The evening wore on and eventually guests began to depart. Kiana found Zoe talking animatedly with Marcus, who seemed to be entertaining her with stories about his years working. "For Silas, there you are," Silas said, joining them. He looked tired but happy. "What do you think, ready to escape yet?" "It was amazing," Kiana told him honestly. "Your friends are lovely. Most of them," Silas said wryly, glancing toward Vanessa, who was still holding court with a dwindling group of admirers. As if sensing his gaze, Vanessa looked up, her eyes narrowing slightly when she saw Silas with his arm around Kiana. She excused herself from her group and made her way toward them. "I should be going," she announced. "Wonderful party, Silas, just like the ones we used to host together." She turned to Kiana with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It was lovely meeting you, Kiana. I do hope you're not in over your head here." Silas's world can be overwhelming for newcomers. Before Kiana could respond, Vanessa leaned in and kissed Silas's cheek, lingering a moment too long. "Call me sometime," she murmured, just loud enough for Kiana to hear. "For old time's sake." With that, she was gone, leaving a cloud of expensive perfume and tension in her wake. "I think I should get Zoe home," Kiana said stiffly. "It's getting late." Silas studied her face. "Don't let her get to you, Kiana. She's just trying to cause trouble." "Is she?" Kiana asked, unable to keep the doubt from her voice. "Because she seems very sure of herself, very sure of you." "Hey," Silas said gently, taking her face in his hands. "Look at me. Vanessa and I are over. Have been for a long time. Even before the divorce, we were just going through the motions." Kiana wanted to believe him, but Vanessa's confident smile, her casual intimacy with Silas, had planted a seed of doubt. "I should still take Zoe home," she said. "It's been a long night." Silas looked disappointed but nodded. "At least let Marcus drive you. I'll call down to have the car brought around." As they waited for the elevator, Kiana felt Silas watching her. "What's really bothering you?" he asked quietly. Kiana sighed. "She's right, isn't she? I don't belong in your world, Silas. Tonight made that very clear." "That's not true," Silas insisted. "You belong wherever I am, and I belong wherever you are. The rest is just window dressing." Kiana wished she could believe him, but as the elevator doors opened and she and Zoe stepped inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was playing a part in a story that couldn't possibly end well. The following week was tense. Kiana threw herself into her work, staying late at the office and bringing files home to study. Silas was equally busy, flying to Los Angeles for meetings with potential investors. They spoke on the phone each night, but there was a guardedness to their conversations that hadn't been there before. The easy intimacy they'd shared seemed strained, weighed down by unspoken fears and doubts. On Thursday, Kiana was working late, reviewing client portfolios, when Elaine stopped by her desk. "You've been avoiding him," Elaine observed, nodding toward Silas's empty office. "He's in LA, Kiana pointed out. "He got back this afternoon," Elaine replied. "He's in a meeting downstairs, and he's been asking about you." Kiana sighed, setting down her pen. "I just needed some space to think." "About Vanessa?" "About everything," Kiana admitted. "About whether Silas and I make sense in the long run. We come from such different worlds." Elaine sat on the edge of Kiana's desk. "Can I tell you something about Silas? Something not many people know?" Kiana nodded. When his mother was dying, he spent every night at the hospital with her. Every night, for 3 months. He'd work all day, then sit with her until morning, holding her hand, reading to her, even when she was too weak to respond. Kiana's heart tightened at the image. "Vanessa visited exactly twice," Elaine continued. "Both times, with photographers in tow for that charity she was chairing. Voices for the Vulnerable or some such nonsense. Why are you telling me this? Because when I see Silas with you, I see the man he was with his mother, present, genuine, not the mask he wears for the rest of the world." Elaine stood, straightening her skirt. "Don't let Vanessa's mind games ruin what you two have. She's very good at manipulation. It's about the only thing she is good at." After Elaine left, Kiana sat for a long time thinking about what she'd said, about Silas reading to his mother in the hospital. It reminded her of something. Her phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. "Coming home soon? Made dinner." Kiana smiled, gathering her things. As she waited for the elevator, the doors opened and there was Silas, looking tired from his trip, but his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "Hey," he said softly. "I was just coming to find you." "Hey, yourself," Kiana replied, echoing their familiar. "Greeting. How was LA?" "Exhausting," productive. He held the elevator door open as she stepped inside. "I missed you." The simple honesty in his voice melted some of the ice that had formed around Kiana's heart since the night of the gala. "I missed you too." They rode down in silence, the tension between them palpable but no longer hostile. "Have dinner with me tonight?" Silas asked as they reached the lobby. "I can't," Kiana said. "Zoe's made dinner. She's been taking cooking classes." "Tomorrow then?" Kiana hesitated, then nodded. "Tomorrow." Outside, the spring evening was warm, the sky painted in shades of pink and gold. Silas walked her to her car, his hand brushing against hers but not taking it. "Kiana," he said as they reached her vehicle, "whatever Vanessa said or did, please don't let it come between us. She's my past. You're my present. And I hope my future." Kiana looked up at him, at the sincerity in his eyes. "I'll see you tomorrow." "Silas," she said softly, not quite ready to address the bigger issue. As she drove home, Kiana couldn't stop thinking about what Elaine had told her, about Silas reading to his mother night after night. It reminded her of something, a memory just out of reach. And then it hit her. Those first nights after she'd misdialed his number, when she'd been at her lowest, desperate and afraid. Silas had stayed on the phone with her for hours, his voice a lifeline in the darkness, just as he'd done for his mother. That wasn't the action of someone playing games or looking for entertainment. That was someone who understood pain, who knew what it meant to just be present for another person in their darkest hour. By the time Kiana reached her apartment, she'd made a decision. The next evening, Kiana left work early to prepare. She didn't go to a fancy restaurant to meet Silas as they'd planned. Instead, she texted him an address, her old apartment building in Westbrook Heights. "Meet me here at 7, she wrote. "There's something I need to show you." Silas arrived precisely at 7, looking confused as he got out of his car. Kiana was waiting for him on the front steps of the rundown building. "This is where Zoe and I lived," she explained, leading him inside, "until 6 months ago." The hallway was dimly lit, the elevator out of order as usual. They climbed 4 flights of stairs to a small apartment at the end of the hall. Kiana still had the key. She'd kept it as a reminder of how far she'd come. "It's not much," she said as they stepped inside. The apartment was empty now, waiting for new tenants. But the memories remained, the water stain on the ceiling, the crack in the kitchen counter, the window that never quite closed properly. "This was our home," Kiana continued, moving through the small space. "Where I raised Zoe after our parents died, where I cried myself to sleep wondering how I'd pay the next bill, where I was sitting when I dialed your number by mistake." Silas followed her, taking in every detail with thoughtful eyes. "It's a good home," he said simply. "You made it that way." Kiana turned to face him. "I brought you here because I needed you to see where I come from, who I am, before we go any further." "I know who you are, Kiana," Silas said gently. "Do you?" "Because Vanessa was right about one thing. I don't belong in your world, Silas. I never will. I'll always be the girl from Westbrook Heights who couldn't pay her rent, and I'll always be the boy whose mother cleaned houses to put food on the table," Silas countered. "The kid who wore the same pair of shoes until they fell apart because we couldn't afford new ones." Kiana looked at him in surprise. "You think I was born into that penthouse?" Silas asked with a sad smile. "Marcus has known me since I was washing dishes at a diner to pay my way through community college. Everything I have I built from nothing. But Vanessa wanted the CEO, not the man," Silas interrupted. "She wanted the lifestyle, the status, the photo ops. Never me, not really." He took a step closer to Kiana. "But you got to know me when you had no idea who I was, when I was just a voice on the phone. You saw me, the real me, from the very beginning." Kiana felt tears welling in her eyes. "I've been so stupid," she whispered, "letting her get into my head." "No," Silas said, taking her hands in his. "You've been brave, braver than anyone I know, raising your sister, fighting for a better life, taking a chance on a stranger who called you in the middle of the night." He pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her. "I love you, Kiana Lowe, all of you. Your past, your present, your future. And if you'll let me, I want to be part of that future." Kiana looked up at him, seeing the truth in his eyes. The same sincerity she'd heard in his voice that first night, when he'd stayed on the line until dawn broke. "I love you too," she said softly. Then, with more certainty, "I love you too, Silas Grant." Their kiss was gentle at first, then deeper, filled with all the emotion they'd been holding back. When they finally broke apart, Silas rested his forehead against hers. "No more doubts?" he asked. "No more doubts," Kiana promised. Hand in hand, they walked out of the apartment, closing the door on the past and stepping into their future together. 1 year later, the garden of Silas's country house was transformed. For the occasion, white roses and lilies lined the path to the simple white arch where Silas stood, looking more nervous and more happy than Kiana had ever seen him. In the small gathering of guests, Zoe adjusted her bridesmaid's dress one last time, exchanging excited glances with Marcus, who would be walking Kiana down the aisle. "Ready?" Marcus asked, offering his arm to Kiana as the music began. "Ready," she confirmed, her heart full as she took his arm. As they began their walk toward the arch, toward Silas, waiting for her, with those eyes that saw her, truly saw her, Kiana thought about the journey that had brought them here. One wrong number, one desperate night, one voice in the darkness that had changed everything. Silas's smile widened as she approached, his eyes never leaving hers, and in that moment, Kiana knew with absolute certainty that sometimes the wrong number turns out to be exactly right. As she reached him, Silas took her hands in his. "You came," he whispered, just as he had on their first date. "I said I would," Kiana replied, squeezing his hands. Around them, their friends and family, Zoe, Elaine and her husband Marcus, and the small circle of people who truly mattered, watched with joyful tears as they prepared to begin their life together. No longer divided by worlds or backgrounds or expectations, just two people who had found each other in the darkness and held on tight as they stepped into the light. Together. The end.